Hi, everybody. I think I'm better set up than, here we go. Good morning, folks. I am better set up than last go around if you were here for that. I didn't have my practice session, so I didn't have time to set up all my things. I did a little better today. I'm going to go ahead and get everything finalized. So, script two, while we're letting attendees pop in. And then let's go to, oh, that's not the button I want. Oh, it is. And then flip these around. All right. I like seeing who's here. I see a couple of clients and a couple familiar names. Uh, all right, let's get rolling. My Burt's Bees is almost empty. I need to buy a new one. I have them setting everywhere, at home, at the office, in my car. All right, let's get going, guys. So today, first of all, thanks for being here. And today is part two of a three-part series that we're doing. We did this a few years ago, right before COVID broke out. We did it December of 19. And just kind of a thought of like, just trying to help people understand how to keep their books up and make year end not quite so painful, especially for those of you that don't have an outside accounting firm that does your accounting work on a day-to-day basis. So, today we're going to talk about just the monthly kind of to-do list. What do you do monthly to keep everything up? What we talked about in the first session was really what are the pain points? And it's really about gathering data at the end of the year, as well as segregating your cost. That's kind of the big thing, right? So if you're a Medicare provider or a waiver provider, if you have any cost report to file, it's important that everything's segregated properly. So at year end, you're not scrambling, spending time trying to separate out, your payroll into the various departments and your expenses into the right categories. You're doing that throughout the year. That's the whole kind of thought behind this concept, right? Of just keeping it updated throughout the year. So we identified the pain points. Now we're going to talk about, and I kind of went a little further and I kind of jumped into today's content in our last session, but not in detail. So I've got more detail to go through with you. It was a couple weeks ago that we did the first session. And then the next session, I believe, is next week. Although I'm not looking at my calendar at the moment. So I think it's next week. So let's get rolling. So first of all, just introduction of me, just really quick, because I think most of you know who I am. Been in the industry since I got out of college, and that's all I really know. And so been on my own. I worked for somebody else for about 5 years, and then I moved to Austin from Oklahoma, and I've been on my own since then. So it's been about 21 years now. And we specialize in home health, hospice, nursing home, and assisted living. And we've been really strong TAC members since day one of moving here. So I love TAC. If you're not a member of TAC, I think everybody should be. If you're a hospice, I also recommend being a member of the Texas, New Mexico Hospice Organization. That's another good one, especially for hospices. I think TAC is good for hospice as well. Don't get me wrong. So today we're going to go through, oh, and I didn't do my little ground rules. First of all, I am recording it. And I promise it is actually being recorded this time. We did not record last 2 weeks ago. Long story short, my marketing gal, she's a rookie, she's new, and anyways, didn't use the template in Zoom that I had set up, so it's all good. She's young and she felt really bad, and she didn't have to. It's okay. I'll redo it if anybody needs that content. I'm happy to sit and redo it. I probably have about 30, 35 minutes of content today. available for questions afterwards. But if you have questions in the meantime, just ask them as they come up. And I need to open, oh, first of all, let me make sure. Where's chat? I think I have to enable chat. Nope, it looks like, hold on. Everyone can chat. Can everybody make sure you can say hi in chat or something like that? And then if you have questions, if you'll actually put them in the Q&A panel. Okay, looks like everybody's able to chat, so that's good. Thank you, thank you. And then if you have questions, if you'll use that Q&A box, that way I can answer them and mark them as answered. I can keep up with all of them. It just makes it a lot easier on my end. I am flying solo this morning and don't have a helper on the back end listening and helping me answer questions. So all right, so let's go. We're going to identify what the monthly maintenance tasks look like, but I really want to talk about how do you automate those? And then lastly, we'll even look at some software solutions that can help you automate. But we here at our firm are all about automation. We're all about using technology to the fullest extent. I heard a statistic yesterday, it was hearsay, but I believe she said she said 70% of all accountants will be retired, but I don't remember if it's in like 10 years. I mean, that's not very far. 70% of the accountants in the workforce now will be retired, and they're not coming into the workforce nearly as fast as they're exiting. I bring that up because staffing is very difficult. As soon as I'm done here, shutting down, headed to up to Round Rock, which is almost an hour north of here, to go for an interview, to go interview another accounting staff. Um, so the good thing is technology is taken over. It's a good in this sense. And AI, artificial intelligence, is in the marketplace now. I'll be very honest, personally, I'm scared of it, and I think they're gonna kill all of humanity, but that's my personal belief. I just hope I'm already gone before it happens. I think I've watched too many sci-fi movies. But in the meantime, I'm gonna use the hell out of it to help make my life easier. And so the good thing is with that many accountants retiring, AI is coming in and doing a lot of the work for us. It still has to be managed and it's not always accurate. So we have to manage it and we have to review it, especially when it comes to tax returns. And you can go ask, like Chat GPT is a big platform. You can ask it tax questions and it will sound super confident and be dead wrong. And you can argue with it and it still thinks it's right. So it doesn't know everything and its knowledge is a couple years old. So never rely on it for tax questions. Just side note. Anyway, so let's go. So bookkeeping task. Daily, you need to be keeping up with your check register. That's what we do within the firm. I actually just kind of lectured the team that all clients' books, they don't internally, we don't have to touch them daily, but at a very minimum, it needs to be weekly. Every week, if you're a client of ours, every week your books are updated. That's a requirement. And then in some, it depends staff by staff. Some staff want to get into every client first thing in the morning and just knock it out. Because if you do it every day, it's a whole lot quicker than once a week. So kind of it's client by client. It's also staff by staff on our end. But a couple times a week, but weekly at very minimum. You want to keep that updated. I will explain how in a little while. Then monthly, you want to reconcile those cash accounts. You also want to reconcile any credit card accounts. Same thing with keeping your check register up to date. You want to keep your credit card register up to date. Again, I'll get into a little more detail on that in just a few minutes. You want to record your payroll at least monthly in detail in your books. This is one of the biggest pain points in our industry. Most providers outsource their payroll. So payroll company runs your payroll. What comes through the book are these big bulk transactions. And it's just like payroll net checks. And it's a big amount. That's all your deposit, your direct deposits, and all your net live checks. Then you got another one for all your taxes, and then maybe another one for garnishments. That you cannot, that we have to segregate all of that and say, okay, what were the gross wages for the LVNs, the RNs, the aides, the admin, the marketing, so that we do that every month. Most clients, we do it with every payroll run. Some clients, it depends on the payroll system. Some clients, we do it just for the month as a whole, and we do one big journal entry for the whole month. You can also import the payroll data. It just depends on who you're working with and how it's set up. Then you also want to review your transactions to make sure they're just accurately coded. And so, really, that could be as simple as reviewing your profit and loss statement. Does everything look right? Does it line up right? Example, it's not a new client, but it was new to me. Um, Staff out on maternity leave. And so I was doing the books, and that's no excuse. I still should have done better. But, anyways, the client noticed, "We don't have any room and board expenses for the month of October. What's going on?" Well, based on how the room and board people, that was a hospice, they billed it on the 1st of November, but it was all for October charges. Well, I saw November 1st, I put it in November. So that's why you want to review those things. Just make sure everything looks like it's included, it's in the right month, but also kind of the right bucket, right? Make sure you don't, like another example, one time a payroll journal entry, um, a lot of it was attendance and admin got switched. So admin payroll was like $300,000 and attendant payroll was 20,000. And I knew, whoa, something's wrong here. So it's kind of hard to tell the staff, it's not hard to tell them, but I tell the staff, do the work, but then you got to stand back and look at it and just make sure it looks right. So that's why we always do a second set of eyes reviews everything we do here. You also want to not consider, but you also want to think about, as you pay new vendors, are they a vendor that's going to, in the end, need a 1099 to be issued to them? And if so, you need to get that tax information, which is gathered on Form W-9. So employees give you a W-4 with all their tax info. Vendors give you a W-9 with their tax info. Um, I have worked with large organizations that required me to provide them a W-9 before they would even pay my invoice. That is normal course of business, and you all should ask for it. I will be very honest, nobody does, but you should. You should ask for it before you issue any payment to any vendor that might need a 1099 at the end of the year. So think about, especially going to be any individuals. If you work with an individual, you've got to get a W-9. But also therapy companies, the requirement is they provide a service to you. So not goods, not Amazon, not Walmart, not Office Depot, but they provide a service. If they provide a service, you need to get a W-9. The W-9 tells us how they are taxed on their end, and that determines whether they're required to be issued a 1099 or not. If in doubt, we always issue one. So that's on that. The IRS is really hammering down on this. They're getting way more extreme. They're now starting to talk about requiring, I don't even want to talk about it because I don't know it, but they're going crazy with it. But I think they're talking about if you've got more than $600 in your bank account, but that might be something else. I don't know. I'm not good at listening to proposed rules because I don't want to deal with it until it's a done rule. It's not something I get to vote on anyway, so I don't educate myself on it. Otherwise, it just gets too confusing. So somebody in the group said they will not issue a payment to a vendor without a 1099, without a W-9 for the 1099. And that's exactly, like, it's normal. Because what happens is, especially think about a individual that's coming in doing therapy work for you, and they work for you for 3 months. They never give you tax ID info, and then they bounce. Or maybe they don't bounce yet. They've been paid, and now you start asking for a W-9, and they go crickets, and they ghost you. And then you never hear from them again. Well, they just earned, I don't know, what, $6,000 under the table because you have no way of issuing a W-9 to all these forms. You have no way of issuing a 1099 to them, which technically means you should not deduct that expense. So let's talk about that for a second. And I'm sorry, this is not a class over 1099s, but we're in 1099 season, so it's fresh on mind. Um, if you do not issue a 1099 for expenses that required one, if you were audited, the IRS would deny those expenses. Just being honest. So let's say your brother's working for you and you don't want to give them a 1099 and you kind of sweep it under the table. If you're audited, it will be excluded from your deductions. You cannot deduct that. All right. So carrying on. Payroll. So what we just talked about was what I consider all bookkeeping, keeping up with your general ledger, recording your transactions in your books. We use QuickBooks Online. We're going to get to software at the end. And now let's talk about payroll, and then we'll talk about billing. So payroll, obviously, you don't have to go look every day that your employees are classified into the right departments, but you do want to review this periodically. And the reason I put daily is as you add employees, ensure that they're going into the right departments. Um, Once they're in the right department, you shouldn't really have a concern about them. They should not accidentally get moved to another department, but you want to review it every once in a while. You also want to ensure your pay items and your payroll deductions are also classified properly so that they go into the right department. It depends on how your payroll is set up, what payroll company you work with, if it's in QuickBooks or an outsourced payroll company, all of that varies as to how the department's set up and the pay items. But you want to ensure that however your system's set up, that it's categorized so that everything's going into the right departments, which then get reported onto the financial statements that way. So your departments should be RN, LVN, PT, PTA, OT, OTA, ST, MSW, spiritual counseling, dietary counseling, um, AIDS, administrative, marketing, if nursing admin, if you separate that one out, all of that you want to, if you put it in departments and payroll, then we can record it by discipline level on the financial statement. So that's the reason for that. Um, don't allow your staff, pardon me, allergies, don't allow your staff to set up random departments. Here's the best example is wound care nurse. They're either an RN or they're an LVN. They need to go into one of those departments. We don't want a department of just nursing or wound care nurse. That's not descriptive enough. I mean, if you have to, then maybe do wound care RN and wound care LVN, but it's not necessary. We try to keep those departments aligned with the cost report. If it's needed on the cost report, it's required to have a department. If it's not needed on the cost report and you insist on having a department, it needs to be structured so that it can be combined. So let's say you do RNs and then you do wound care RN, that's fine. We will add those two up when we put them on the financial statement because it goes payroll report to the financial statement to the cost report. So, um, so watch how they set up the departments. And also, back on this, not only departments, but keep a check on the pay items. We got a new client, they set up and they went with our preferred payroll vendor and they went rogue with their pay items. It's about a list of like 50 long. It's absurd. So we can help design your payroll system so it makes sense. It's usable, but it's not over the top with detail. Billing. This sounds self-explanatory, but it's not. We find this doesn't happen on a regular basis. So billing is an absolute daily task. You may not bill every day, but you're getting payments in all the time. You want to ensure that your billing is kept current. You need to post remittances when they come in. Again, I say daily, but I'm going to revert back to at least weekly. Don't get so backed up that it's piling up. Post the remittances daily. Here's the other thing about posting remittances. They need to be posted fully, accurately to your best ability, and completely. And what I mean by that is you need to work with your software to understand if there's a discrepancy, how you resolve that. What we run into is um, remittances that, well, we posted most of it, but this part didn't make sense. We'll look in a billing system and they might have, they say, oh no, billing's all current. Okay, cool. But then they've got claims from 3 years ago that still show as unpaid. Not even a lot of them, but a handful. And they're like, oh, that was on that one remittance and we didn't know how to post it, but it's all been paid. We know it's paid, so we just ignore it. But that doesn't work when you're using reports out of the system and it keeps those claims in your accounts receivable. So then the last thing is anything that's uncollectible or it's been collected, you've got to be able to zero out those open balances. So you got to work with your software vendor if it's got hiccups or glitches or this or that and get those things cleaned up. That system needs to be correct. And I know it's a big job, but it's an important job. So it's my soapbox pitch on that one. How do we automate these things? Let's talk about automation. A lot of the bookkeeping can be automated. So we use the term bank feeds, and all that means is in QuickBooks you can connect QuickBooks to the bank and you keep them connected and the connection breaks. I say all the time. It's not all the time. It varies by bank and it changes when one software updates their security methods, and it is a challenge that we just have to deal with, right? It could be worse. That's not there's a phrase I can't think of. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. I don't know what the phrase is. Anyways, so we keep them connected. Some banks are really friendly with Intuit and some aren't. Intuit is the maker of QuickBooks. I apologize. So those transactions then get downloaded from the bank every day. They're downloaded. To be honest, I'm not sure. I think QuickBooks goes out and fetches it overnight, but there's also, it's a necessary annoyance. Thank you, Marcy. That's a great one. Yes, it is. It makes our lives a lot simpler, but it's a pain in the ass when it doesn't work, but it's still worth it because you got to go fix it, you got to deal with it, but then the time savings is worth those little glitches. But so the bank, all the activity comes in from the bank. It does update overnight, but you can manually hit sync on it to where it'll do it instantly. So you can update if you have to. When you download everything from the bank, you've got this screen in QuickBooks and it's called bank feeds and you review it. So they're sitting in this bucket. They're not posted to the books yet until you review it and say, yeah, that's correct. And so the system starts to learn it. And we'll get into that AI in a minute. But the system starts to learn it and it sees that you paid McKesson. Oh, and last time you charged that to medical supplies billable. So it learns that. Not only that, in QuickBooks, you can create rules. And so you can tell it, deposits are the best. So you can tell it if the deposit comes in and the memo line says United Healthcare, then you're going to code it to revenue, Medicare Advantage, United Healthcare, whatever your revenue account is, wherever that goes. So you can create these rules, but you can create a rule for everything. Not everything, but for a lot. I recommend creating as many rules as you can. When things break in QuickBooks and when you start using new bank accounts, but sometimes something breaks in QuickBooks and previously it's like, well, I've been paying Office Depot for a long time. It knows Office Depot is office supplies, but something kind of, I don't know if it's a glitch or what, it'll forget that. But if it's a rule, there's a difference between being recognized and being a rule. QuickBooks will recognize things and guess where it goes, but if it's a rule, it's kind of like set in stone. Okay, if I see this kind of transaction, this is where I code it. The rules don't break nearly as easy as the recognition kind of tends to lose it's memory sometimes. So we've become big proponents just this year of really creating a lot of rules so that those transactions are easily accepted. Um, I'm sorry I don't have one I can show you. Um, but anyways, and it's nice. It'll say rule, and so it makes it easier to automate. And you could even then, let's say you haven't been keeping up with it all the time, and you got 200 transactions to review. You can sort them and say, okay, show me all the ones that has a rule on it, and you can show all those. You can check mark all. And then accept them all at once. So you can kind of do things in batch when you've got some rules set up. Um, entries. If you have a journal entry that you make every month, you can set those to be memorized and recurring. So for instance, depreciation. So we record depreciation every month. You know, the depreciation this year is going to be $12,000. We're going to recognize $1,000 a month. We set that as a recurring journal entry. So we set it and forget it, and it automatically posts every month. You can have other journal entries. Let's say it's not the same amount every month. Let's say it's your payroll. And you go in or you record a journal entry once a month that says, all right, total payroll for the month was 300,000. And it comes in those big transactions, you know, through, let's just say you're with ADP, and it's just these big transactions. What we do is we post those transactions to an account called payroll clearing, with the idea that at the end of the month, we're going to clear it out. So they all go in there. There's my 300,000, but I got to go separate it all out. So then I record a journal entry. I zero out the 300,000, and then I have all of my wages and taxes and mileage all segregated out into the individual lines for RNs, LVNs, and everything. I can set up that journal entry and I can memorize it, but I can tell it, don't enter this entry for me. It's just here. Don't automatically enter it like you do the depreciation, but just save it, because I'll come and I'll pull up this journal entry and just change the numbers and save it. And don't forget to change the date. I fall into that trap all the time. But you know, put the right date on it, change the numbers and save it. That way you can just use it over and over and over. It becomes a template for you. Um, and then on the 1099s, another trick here is as you're in QuickBooks, when you add a new vendor, unless you know it's like Office Max or is Office Max even around anymore? I think it's Office Depot now. Anyways, Walmart. You know that you're not going to issue a 1099 to Walmart. How funny would that be? There is when you set up a new vendor, there's a checkbox eligible for 1099. I would check that by default. And if you know Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, you know, these big stores that you buy goods from, or meals and entertainment, restaurants, gas stations, anything like that, you don't want to check it. But the other, so it's services provided, back to 1099s. You're going to have to issue for any services provided, but also if you make any legal payments, you got to issue a 1099. So if you pay an attorney, you got to issue a 1099, but also medical payments. That's why you get a 1099 from all the medical payments that you receive. You receive 1099s from all your payer sources. That's because they are issuing you a medical payment. And no matter your taxing entity or taxing structure, because it's a medical payment, you're required to receive one. So same thing, if you're paying a nursing home for room and board, you have to issue them a 1099 because that's a medical payment. If you're using a therapy company for physical therapy, those are medical payments, I think is what we're calling them. So anyways, you issue 1099s for those as well. So check mark that box by default until you know it's not a 1099 vendor, because then in QuickBooks, you can run a 1099 report and it will show you, okay, these are the people that meet the threshold, and here's the info we have or don't have, and it'll be highlighted red if you don't have all their info. So then you know who you need to go request information from. That's what we use. So how do you automate these things with software? So let's talk about some of the software pieces that we use. QuickBooks Online. If you are doing payroll in QuickBooks, QuickBooks Online is probably not an option for you. QuickBooks Online payroll, it does exist, but really should be 20 or less employees. Um, I don't recommend any home care do their payroll in-house. That's me. We really try to encourage everybody to outsource it. At this time, we actually won't take a new client that does not outsource their payroll. They must outsource their payroll for us to work with them. We do have a couple legacy older clients that have been with us for a little while that they do payroll in QuickBooks Desktop, and that's all they use QuickBooks Desktop for. And then we do QuickBooks Online for all the accounting, and we take a report from Desktop payroll and we record it as if they were outsourcing their payroll with somebody else. The couple that we have that do it that way, they're good at it, it's working, so we let it keep rolling that way, but we don't wanna go into any more like that. It's just too much of a challenge. Um, so back to QuickBooks Online. That's where you can connect. Not only do you connect to bank accounts for your checking accounts and savings account, you also connect your credit card accounts. So one thing I did not mention, bookkeeping properly, you should keep a register for your for your credit card. What that means is you've got to register in your QuickBooks and you show every single expense line item that comes in, and then your payment will zero it out or decrease the balance. So you get all the charges. So instead of looking at your financials and maybe you record the okay, let me back up. The other way to record that, let's say you use an American Express for a lot of expenses. When the American Express bill arrives, it's $30,000 and you're going to pay the whole 30,000. When you write a check for that 30,000, you go into that one check and you say, okay, 10,000 was auto expense, 2,000 was office supplies, 1,000 was, and you list them all out. That's one way of doing it. The disadvantage and what happens there is when we go to drill into your expenses and we say, man, office supplies looks really high. What's in that expense account? And we drill down into it, we double click on the number. All we see is 12 months of Amex. So you got Amex, 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 Amex. Think about if it was your medical supplies and it's the same thing. You can't see who are you paying for medical supplies? How much are you paying them? All you see are Amex as a vendor. So we encourage everybody or we train everybody, use a actual register for your credit card because that's how you can connect it automatically anyways, put it into what they call a bank feed and it'll pull every transaction. So now we code every transaction that comes in to office supply or medical supply, and then we just pay the bill when it comes in and it reduces that balance. We've got all the detail there. So then when you're looking at your P&L, you say, man, office supplies looks really high. You drill in and you see Office Depot, Costco, Walmart, and then maybe you see McKesson for $15,000. Well, what the heck is that? Oh, that's medical supplies. That needs to be reclassified. But see, if it just said Amex, you wouldn't know what it is. So we highly encourage everybody use a credit card register, use the bank feeds. It's all automated and it keeps it really clean for you. It pulls in all the transactions, like I said, every day. You can create rules and on a credit card. When you go to do the reconciliation, it's like super quick because everything came in through the bank feed. It's got the date of the transaction, it's got the date it cleared the bank, or the credit card, and you just put in the ending balance and click reconcile now. It's like done for you. It's super, super quick. It's great. Um, Look, my words are covered up right here. Little things I missed. I don't know what it says. Let's see, 1099 Wizard will walk through the steps to reviewing when missing info. I guess it means when. I don't know. Anyways, and then your 1099 wizard will be able to keep up with all that. Now, let's say you paid a vendor that's 1099 eligible with your American Express. Well, if you don't code that in detail, we'll never get it right. However, if they're paid with a credit card, I think you still issue 1099. All those rules are getting complicated. I need them in front of me to be able to answer questions. Um, Another piece of software that we use to automate things is Bill.com. This is an accounts payable software, but we use it as an accounting firm, and all of our clients are in one place on it, but anybody can use it. Um, it syncs with QuickBooks, but it's a real bill payment platform. And so what I mean by that is you get a dedicated inbox, email address, and you email all your invoices there. And let's say it comes to you via email, just forward the email. Let's say it comes to you in the mail, like I just got our property tax statement. I can scan it in and send it to bill.com. So I scan it and send it to that email address. You could even get where if any invoices that come to you via email, you can give your vendor the bill.com email address. They could just go straight there. But then in bill.com goes through and it reads the invoice and it uses AI to learn how you code that invoice. It picks up the invoice date, it picks up the vendor name, it puts all that data in and it learns. That's a great thing about AI. AI learns, whereas the older technology, even that Bill.com used, is OCR, optical character recognition. That recognizes characters and it would kind of memorize things and it would remember Office Depot went to Office Expense last time, but it doesn't really learn. AI actually learns and it just learns and the longer you use it, the better it gets. So anyways, that kind of keeps you going and so it learns them. So your entry, instead of entering the bill, becomes you're just reviewing it. Because you know you want to review your bill anyways to make sure you're being billed properly. And so it pushes it through. Then the rest of the automation, I see the question, I'll get to it in just a second. The rest of the automation is then when you're ready to pay bills, you simply log in. It's got all your list of bills that have been processed, and you tick mark which ones you want to pay. It gives you a little total, a little tally at the top, and then you click pay now and it sends e-payments. If the vendor has signed up for e-payments, it sends some of the big vendors are already in the Bill.com network. And so you don't even invite them to e-payment. They just only accept e-payment and it's all done in the background. You don't even worry about it. But it also sends a live check, but it does all that. It sends a live check. It sends the remittance advice with it. It looks all nice and organized. Um, and so it's a good check for your vendors. Remember way back in the day, you would send like Wells Fargo bill payment and it would just, the vendor would get it. Sometimes didn't even know who it was from. It was the worst bill payment system ever. This gives your vendor, and it tells them what invoice it's paying, all that good stuff. So it works really well. Also, it serves as an online document management system for all of your payables as well, because then all your vendors are there. You can look them up, go find any invoice. You can go find all the proof of payment, all of that. It's really nice. Okay, question. What would be the best way to transition from the old school way of entering the credit card into the bank info to the bank feed method? Tried it many years ago and it hosed my system because we have several cards and I didn't do it and it did not post properly. Maybe it was QuickBooks glitch at the time. I will say this, if that was many years ago, QuickBooks Online has gotten better and better every year. We forced all clients to convert in 16. Um, it gets better and better. So it might have been a glitch, but the best way, what's hard is getting a clean start date. Um, I would honestly have to really think through that pretty hard, Marcy. That's going to be the hard thing is a clean start date. But I would think, let's say, because statements never end on the 31st. They're weird. Let's say the statement ends on the 10th of the month. I think I would do that statement the old fashioned way and say, okay, done. Then I would connect the bank account and you got to watch this real close. They end on the 28th. Okay. You got to watch this real close. When you connect the bank feed, basically you're in QuickBooks and it says connect account. Okay, cool. And you log into your bank account inside of QuickBooks. And it says, okay, here's all your accounts. Which ones do you want to connect? And it has you connect them. And that's all very intuitive and you can walk through it. The trick is watch very closely, and there's a get out of jail free card if you do it wrong. But watch closely where it'll say what date you want to import from. And I don't know exactly how it spells it out, and each bank is different. But it'll be like the last 30 days, the last 60 days, last 90 days, all year maybe. Or can you enter a specific date? If you can enter a specific date, let's use Marcy's example. Theirs ends on the 28th. So she'll take her statement for the 28th of December, enter it the old school way, and then she'll import transactions from 29 forward. Now, if you don't get that option, or if you miss it, because I will tell you I've missed it on many occasions, then all you do is go into that bank feed area and you click the ones that you have already that were on the statement that you just posted the old fashioned way, check mark those and click exclude. So when you're in bank feeds, you can either accept the transaction or exclude it. If you exclude it, it just kicks it out. You don't accept it. Now, what if you excluded one by accident? You can go undo that. So you can do that. And you'll have to kind of play with it a little bit, Marcy. So when you do that, the 28th, you're going to have some transactions that say they were the 28th, but they didn't hit that statement. So you might have to kind of manually enter a couple things, but it's worth it. Again, it's a necessary evil kind of thing. That's the phrase I was looking for, necessary evil. um, and so you'll just have to kind of clean it up at that transition date. I would do one and see how it goes, and then do the rest. I think if you have multiple credit cards, but I would definitely try to do that for the new year. Um, even if you even if you wanted to do December that way, all you do is just don't enter it as the bill comes in. Okay, multiple cards on one bill. That is a lot more complicated, but we deal with it a lot. And Marcy, if you'll connect with me, I'll probably put you on a call with Michelle. She can show you exactly how to set that up because you're in all of my webinars all the time. Is it American Express? Because they're kind of the worst. Um, it will look funky on your balance sheet because it will give you'll have a bunch of sub-accounts, and then you gotta look at the total to see the total balance. The sub-accounts will have wacky balances, like whichever card is the main card will be a big negative because that's where all the payments get posted, but it actually works and reconciles just fine. We've got it worked out. Um, that is something that QuickBooks got a lot better with. So again, if you want to reach out to me, I can give you a 10, 15-minute tutorial and get you set up on that to make that help. And then maybe we can share with others. All right, let me get wrapped up. What time is it? Yeah, because of course I'm always going late. Um, AI, we talked about AI. Again, AI is learning and it can just read things and learn things. And if you have an opportunity to sit in on any AI webinars, especially if they say AI in healthcare, start doing it. We need to learn how we can use AI to better our businesses. I don't know yet what that's going to look like in home care. I can't figure it out for accounting. Um, but I just had my big accounting conference several weeks ago in November, and this was a big topic, and it was so cool. We're using it for things like helping us write letters. And so one of my peers, CPA guy, he asked ChatGPT to write a letter to terminate a client, but make it nice and friendly. And the client came back and said, "Did I just get fired by ChatGPT?" And that cracked us all up. And so you got to kind of clean it up a little bit because people are recognizing that. But here's an example. I'm speaking for TAC in the winter conference, and they needed a description for my presentation. And I tried to cheat by just giving Grace my presentation, but she couldn't write the description for me. So I said, okay, fine. So I went to ChatGPT and gave it my, I just gave it what my presentation's about, and it wrote a transcript it wrote a description for me, and then you can tell it, "Hey, can you clean that up and make it sound a little more humble?" Because it sounded super braggadocious, and it was also my bio. I did my bio that way too. So I copied my bio from my website, asked them to update it. It was very braggadocious. I said, "Can we be a little more humble?" So it'll reiterate it, and it just keeps reiterating. But that's just one component of how to use this. Obviously, we're using it in the form of data processing, and I kind of started with, it's really hard to hire in accounting, and I know it is in nursing. But the good thing in nursing, at least you still have people coming into that field. I still think even that has slowed down compared to um, accounting. Compared to the job market as a whole. But accounting, like nobody wants to go into accounting because they're just all they see, the students are they just hear the nightmare stories of the big four accounting firm where they work you 80 hours a week and you don't get to see sunlight and you got busy season and you just get paid 40 hours a week, which is all true. That's how they do it. It's not how we do it, but that's how they do it. Um, so just be on the lookout, and so start listening and look for podcasts, man. Podcasts are a great way to get consume data and further your education, your knowledge on. You'd be amazed at what you can find a podcast on. Um, okay, QuickBooks recording payroll transactions. I already talked about that. I think that slide might be out of order, maybe. That's okay. You know me, I don't follow my slides very good anyways. And then just final thoughts was, which is what I was kind of going through, is like think about how you can use AI. And back to the hiring, so we hire only degreed accountants. I would love to get some CPAs, not to be more than just myself, but we don't hire bookkeepers because technology can do a lot of the bookkeeping for us and a lot of the data processing for us. So we don't need that skill set. We need higher skill set because we're going to let the technology do a lot of our work so we can do analysis and we can answer questions and we can do tax planning with you and be more value to you than just data processors. So that's my pitch. Are there any other questions that are out there? Anybody? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Well, again, you guys know how to get a hold of me. If you need me, I'm around. We have one last session, which will be what it looks like to outsource your back office. I think it's a really good topic. Sure, it's a sales pitch because that's what we do. But my point really is more education because people get a little bit scared about outsourcing their back office. And what does that mean? To me, it's an old buzzword now, but it was a buzzword for a long time, but we'll talk about what that looks like so you can understand it. Maybe it's something that works for you, maybe it's not, but at least you understand it. So, all right, guys, we'll get a follow up email. We'll go out in 2 days with the recording and the slide deck. And again, just let me know if you got any questions in the meantime. Appreciate you guys. All right, bye bye.